What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to On the Block with the Meat Pack. It's your boy Mike Rogers. We got Mike Richman in the cut.
What's up, my boy?
What's going on? We here to talk about a little NBA. We have T minus 2 days to the start of the season. Your boy is Hype Williams in this joint. So pretty much what we're going to do, we're going to do a quick little video for y'all to get in some early predictions to say we said it here first. The first thing we're going to talk about before we get into awards is I just want to break down. We're not going to go too in depth into playoff standings or brackets. I just want to give you who I think will be the number one seed in each division and kind of play off that for a minute. So I do want to start with the East. And listen, here's my thing. I was going to go with Brooklyn just because, KD, Kyrie, and whatnot. But if I had to lock it in, I still do think the Milwaukee Bucks will get the one seed. I just expect a little hiccups from Brooklyn this year. I still think they're going to be a very good team. Obviously, KD and Kyrie. I just think, this being their first year playing together, Steve Nash, first time being a head coach, there's going to be a little hiccups down the road. And one of the only problems I see possibly happening with Brooklyn is we know KD and Kyrie will, and make clutch shots. And obviously KD, I don't think is that selfish. He plays so good without the ball in his hands. He doesn't need it. So I'm just kind of wondering, if some hero ball ends up going on, or just what some late game situations for that team are going to look like. Because you do have two guys that are pretty legit down in the clutch. But I just think, with the offseason moves Milwaukee made, they got better. And just obviously having Giannis, I still think that's a 60-win basketball team. I think it's just more or less
didn't the Bucks win the most games last year?
Yeah, and I think the year before that, they were the one seed too, I think. So I just, they're going to be a good team as long as Giannis is there. They're going to be in that position. Now that conversation shifts to, can he get to the finals and potentially win a chip?
Yeah.
So I do have to lock in the Bucks on that. We're going to look at the Western side of things.
All right, come on now, dude.
Here's my thing. I almost wanted to say the Clippers. I do have to go with the other LA team. I got to go with the Lakers. The only reason I was going to argue the Clippers was because I think they do have a lot to prove this year. I think that they would try to go out and make a statement and try to get the one seed, but only playing 72 games. It just depends if Kawhi and Paul George are still on this load management kick and whatnot. But overall, I do have to say it will be the Los Angeles Lakers, just because also they got a lot better too during the offseason. And
I mean, that's exactly it. The Lakers won the bubble championship and arguably had the best offseason in terms of bringing in assets. So, I mean, it's honestly scary looking at their roster.
It is, and I just expect, I know LeBron is probably sitting there. He's probably pretty tired. I mean, 36-year-old dude still is the best player in the NBA, but I could imagine he's tired. But the only reason I say they keep up with having the best record again in the West is because I think we're going to see AD take a step this following season. That's really going to shake some things up. And just, like I said, with the pieces they added, they're going to be competitive. And even though they did just come off a championship, they want to run it back. So they still have something to prove. I know some people, Skip Baylesses of the world, put an asterisk next to that championship. I'm not with that narrative at all.
Disagree. Yeah,
big disagree on that. So, but I still think they would like to legitimize that it is a legit team and potentially go out and get a dynasty. So yeah, finals matchup. I'd love to see a Lakers Bucks little action. I'd maybe like see a Lakers Brooklyn action too. A little KD, LeBron going back and forth at each other, and with the Kyrie revenge tour. But that's why I like winning both conferences. We're going to move right into the awards here. We are going to start at the bottom. We're going to go Coach of the Year first, move our way up to eventually MVP. Coach of the Year, I got to go with I think a surprise one for some people. I'm going to go with that boy Monty Williams, Phoenix Suns head coach. And the only reason I say that is we obviously saw last year, those 8 games they played in the bubble, they went 8-0. Devin Booker is turning into a superstar in front of our eyes. That boy is a walking bucket. And I just think with the addition of Chris Paul and I think Kelly Oubre Jr. leaving them is going to hurt a lot. But when you get a guy like Chris Paul and Devin Booker's ascending, DeAndre Ayton's ascending, I think that is going to be a playoff team. Even if it's the 8th or the 7th seed, I still think they get there. Actually, depending on if Chris Paul can work that magic again, I like this roster maybe a little bit more than last year's OKC he was on. And so I think, when you just equate big wins like that, I think Monty Williams gets that reward, because that team has been on the up and up the past couple years, and it just took a couple pieces for them to maybe get over that hump. I think he's good. He needs to deserve some recognition. He's been a good head coach for a long time. And I think needs to get a little recognition on the boys. So yeah, that's my coach of the ward. I don't really, maybe Nick Nurse could do it again or something like that. Shout out to Nick Nurse. I love me some Nick Nurse. Yeah, Monty Williams, I'm going to have to go with for that. Other word we're going to talk about is the most improved player, and I'm going to go right ahead and say Jamal Murray. Now, I know a lot of people might think that's weird or whatnot, but last year I think he only averaged about 18, 19 points. But when we got to the bubble and we got into the playoffs, we saw that man turn into just a freak, just
animal,
bona fide scorer. We saw this man on Instagram getting sucked up, and just that dude was draining threes on the court. He was just getting it done out there. And so to think, 19 points, still a very good player. We obviously saw what he did in the playoffs, but I think now we know all that, and the Nuggets know all that going into the season. That boy's going to get some touches. He's going to be able to control that offense. I still think it's Jokic's team for sure. He's the rock in the center of that team. But that pairing there with Jamal Murray, I mean, I think Jamal Murray's about to run up about 27 a game, something like that. That dude's going to be legit. I'm expecting an all-star appearance from him. He's going to be a problem guard to deal with in that Western Conference, because the Western Conference guards are loaded. I mean, we're talking Damian Lillard. We got Steph Curry back in the cut. We'll see what Ja Morant and stuff looks like this year, possibly De'Aaron Fox maybe. But Jamal Murray, I think, is the top of a few of those guys. So I expect him to have a monstrous season, him and Jokic, and just in general, the Nuggets to fry some people up this year. So
for me, that most improved, it's got to be him if you're judging just off of like bubble play and so forth, for sure. Mm-hmm. But with this award, it's kind of going to be a toss-up until you really get about halfway through the season. You're going to see who starts to come to the top, because there might be a few names that we're not even thinking of right now who just have a lights-out season. So for me, this one's really just a toss-up for sure.
Well, yeah, and it is a toss-up because it depends. If a player goes from 6 points to averaging 20, I mean, you'd have to start looking and considering that. I got a couple boys on my New York Knicks that if they have a big year, it's like, what do we start looking at? I just think, Jamal Murray's case going from a very nice player to an elite star, I think that's going to be his trajectory, and I'm hyped to see that. So we're going to move on from that. The next award we about to give out is Defensive Player of the Year. And honestly, I mean, I think that award has kind of been and will be kind of the same 3 or 4 guys each season. I think Giannis is about to run it back just because his help defense and how long he is, and just his ability to get blocks and steals is insane. He's just the PER prince. That dude's efficiency is off the rating. His defensive win shares are off the charts. And so I think he'll run it back. Like I said, I think Adebayo is in that conversation. I think Rudy Gobert is going to be in that conversation. He always is. Anthony Davis is going to be in that conversation again.
I think Kawhi's up there as well.
Kawhi, Pat Bev, maybe, but and then those are kind of really the only guys I think we really need to look at for that award. I'm not saying guys don't go out and play great defense. There are some really great defensive players in the league that you could say are kind of just specifically defensive guys, 3-and-D type guys. I just think Giannis is going to hold that down again. If I had to pick a runner-up, maybe Anthony Davis because he came close last year. But I think Giannis 100% runs that back. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Like I said, I think that's only a 4 or 5 man conversation at the end of the day, but maybe someone comes out of the woodworks this year and just puts up some crazy blocks or something. So that was Defensive Player of the Year. We have Rookie of the Year, which, I mean, here's the thing. Rookie of the Year is a lot like the Most Improved. This draft was one of the weaker drafts we've probably ever seen. I think the big consensus is, I don't think this draft is really going to produce a lot of superstars, even stars for that matter. Some really good role players I think are going to come out of this draft. And so that I have to give it to LaMelo, and I don't think a lot of people would argue at this point, just because one, Charlotte has nothing to lose by letting him completely take over the offense. I know they still have Devontae Graham. I know they still have Terry Rozier, who all 3 of those guys kind of play the same position. And I know Charlotte has hinted at maybe the option of moving Rozier. And so I just don't think they have anything to lose. I think just because, he plays the point guard position, he's going to have the ball in his hand. He's a great playmaker and can shoot a little bit. So I just think, his numbers are going to look good. And Michael Jordan and the Charlotte organization is just, I wouldn't say let him run freely, because I do still think they want a shot at potentially making the playoffs. I think they have a solid enough squad to where maybe they could touch that. Obviously, they brought in Gordon Hayward, who's going to add a big element of scoring and whatnot. But
if he's healthy.
If he's healthy, but all in all, just because he's going to have the ball in his hands. My boy Obi Toppin for the Knicks has looked absolutely great in a couple of those games. I could potentially see him maybe in that conversation. But this is going to be one we're going to have to recheck this 30, 40 games into the season to see. It's like a couple years ago when Ben Simmons was the obvious runaway for Rookie of the Year. Then here comes Donovan Mitchell lighting shit up as a rookie. He was later end of the lottery. So those players can kind of come out of nowhere. Like I said, do any superstars come out of this draft? I don't think so. But who knows? I think some very nice, solid role players who can contribute a lot will come out of this draft. But I got to give it to LaMelo, triple Bs.
At this point, just judging off of the preseason, for sure, LaMelo, I mean, his court vision is unreal. I mean, it is preseason, so take that how you will. But dude is just tossing dimes behind the back, over the top, literally everywhere. And, you kind of see that same style of play from Lonzo. So I don't know if that just runs in that family or not. But, I mean, that court vision is there. But another person for me up there is Anthony Edwards, I think. I mean, he also had a pretty good preseason. And that's the 1-2 picks out of this draft. And like you said, there's not a huge amount of names coming out of this draft. So, but for me, it's probably going to be between these two. But you made the point already. But LaMelo's I think LaMelo's going to see a lot more time on the court, a lot more big plays coming out of him for that. So.
See, too, and I think Anthony Edwards does get a lot of playing time. It's just like you still got Karl Anthony Towns and you still got D'Angelo Russell, who are the 1-2 on that team. So those boys are going to eat first, and then Anthony Davis could get him. They still and the T-Wolves got Malik Beasley, who's a good scorer too. But like I said, that pass vision from that's some shit you can't teach. You got Lonzo and LaMelo, who that's like something you don't teach. That's a very unselfish way to play basketball. It's pretty awesome to see when you see guys that are willing to make those kind of passes and uplift their teammates, want to make them better. So going to go with LaMelo Ball on that one. Definitely keep an eye on Anthony Edwards, though, see what he's talking about. But with that being said, we got last but not least MVP. Let's fuck that up. But MVP of the league. If I sit here right now, I mean, listen, it's easy to argue Giannis could run it back. And I mentioned earlier that I think AD take a big step this season. He's potentially about to run up those numbers. The only reason I think they wouldn't give it to AD, and the reason I don't think they gave it to LeBron last year, is because, I mean, you could argue, obviously LeBron's the best player in the league. You could argue Anthony Davis is 2 or 3 right there. So I could see where maybe they wouldn't want to lean in that direction, but depends what kind of numbers he put up. So, but for my MVP consideration, I got to go with that boy Luka Doncic. I've been seeing that a lot, and I just agree with it. That's one of them things. I think Dallas and Mark Cuban and all them, the head coach, is completely turned that team over to Luka. And I mean, we're talking about a guy who came into the league as a rookie and looked like he had been doing it for 10 years. I mean, the dude's just a professional, and he's not the most athletic guy in the world. And he doesn't need to be at all. He's just a complete, I wouldn't say complete package, but, because he's really not a good defender at all. It gets blown by a lot. But, I mean, the boy can shoot. The boy can pass. He can get you some rebounds. And just his IQ, his vision, awareness, everything is just solid. And like I said, if Kristaps Porzingis can stay healthy this year, them boys about to run up a check. And I just think from a numbers standpoint, I think Dallas Mavericks might end up with the 3rd or 4th seed in the West. I think he's going to be, I'm expecting like a 29, 8-8 type season from him, like some LeBron type numbers. I really do out of Luka. I think he's just going to step it up. I think he plays basketball in such a way to where, like I said, he doesn't need all that athleticism to get done what he needs to get done. And he's going to go get it done. Unless he gets hurt, knock on wood, I really think he's about to run up a check. And like I said, AD, Giannis in that conversation. I don't really see anyone else.
For me, Luka's definitely in that conversation for sure. I mean, he's going to have an insane season. But these Warriors are coming back, bro. And they didn't make it to the bubble, and they were angry about it. Clay's out. I'm expecting the world out of Steph Curry this year, and I would not be surprised if he gets that MVP. I think he's going to play at a whole nother level we haven't seen from him. And like, he's already insane, arguably the best shooter we've ever seen.
Oh, he is, for sure.
And, I just think he's going to have an absolute fucking ruck-a-monk of a season, bro. It's going to be crazy. I got high hopes for Steph Curry. I think they're going to ball the fuck out over there in the Warriors.
Yeah, I think the Warriors got a good team. If I had to give a surprise team of the season, it's weird to say that the Warriors being good is going to be a surprise, but obviously last year. And the only reason I wouldn't go all in 100% is obviously Clay being out, but they went out and got Kelly Oubre. Like you said, had second pick in the draft when it got James Wiseman. So, yeah, I think Steph Curry goes out there, proves why he's Steph Curry. It's kind of weird to me. We're talking about a 3-time champion, 2-time MVP, unanimous MVP. And it always feels like people doubt Steph Curry for some reason or don't want to give him all the credit. The dude's a legend.
And that's just another reason, dude. I think that's just putting another chip on his shoulder for the season.
I agree for sure. I could 100% believe that. I think at that point, like I said, numbers are one thing. I think it's going to come down to the record for sure. And we'll see where Golden State's sitting at compared to maybe a Dallas or something like that. But yeah, big year out of Steph Curry, big year out of the Warriors, I think. So I don't know. Those were our predictions. NBA T -2 days. Your boy is hype. The meat pack. We're going to do lots of videos, lots of content for y'all. I'm excited, baby. Go Knicks, son. The meat pack. Get the fuck out of here.